I lived in Turkey a long time, and these poems are, I tend to like to do books according to style or the area of interest. It's not all about Turkey and Istanbul, not all the poems are, but a lot of them are. And so actually I forgot the book I had all my little notes in, so I'm just going to read through it. My wife's going to raise her hand at like 14 minutes, and then we'll come to an end. Okay, it's just as easy as any other possible system. This is a poem called, and by the way, I was a commercial fisherman in Alaska before I went to Istanbul, and so the sea is also incredibly important. I've got a lot of work about the sea and being at sea. This poem is called I Know You Said. I know you said, static is the inevitable and frightening position of placing my ear to the shell of our conversation. Knowing who we are dismembers our words, breaks apart our timber, makes terra incognita a known fact. This is how we sailed round every headland to face the headwind. And still, it sounds less like rocks than the splash. In the great pond, we are exquisitely transforming into ripples of ourselves. Somewhere on the Black Sea, ferns, figs, pine forests, truffles, on our way to a town where they speak with a crazy accent. I have no idea what they're saying, so I nod. They want to believe I understand them, so they smile. We are having a great time. A story. I held my tongue till I couldn't taste anything. It wasn't always like this. I hoped for the rise of tolerant reason from behind the shadow of guns. But the government began erasing any word that didn't come from their dictionary. I waited and fed as they gave us token morsels. Besides, who else was there to believe in? Then their billy clubs bashed in heads and pepper gas billowed like great sails. It was brutal. But at least the wind began in tears and my tongue regained its feeling. I could taste the chanting voices. Who expects miracles? I don't. But this was my chance to let go of my tongue. I have done this. There's a love poem. It's called Lament. The bleak poiras blew steady. Cold pierced my body, but couldn't lance the pain. A horn honked again and again, like a headache. It found me on the terrace, hiding from myself and you. Through the curtains, I stared at scrimmed shapes of furniture in the living room. It was a shadow play. In it, nothing moved, and the room was empty. Your silhouette was everywhere. I could taste my heart clot in my mouth. I'm testing you this spring to find out if we're alive. I'm alive. The days scratch the walls of my veins. I've been celebrating coal smoke and rain. I've tried to buy lies at an affordable price, but the bazaars and their bolts of cloth can't cover the truth. At least I know why I've settled in this city of graveyards. Water on the window. Air, like a day-old loaf, goes for half price, but I pay top dollar just the same. Ouch, conductor. Something light for my dyspepsia. The Dramamine is kicking in. If you must sing like a boat, sing like a boat. The day is a lantern swinging in darkness, headlights crossing the bridge in opposite directions. And right now, I wish it would rain, or a crow would slide by on this moonless night. Fat chance, but there you have it. The air is warm, the storm will soon swallow it. And I'm ready to sing like pistons, the keel, the turning screw, boiling water off the stern. The shore disappears, approaches, the city drives by. Poisoned. While you vomited or slept instead of vomiting, we imagined dressing you in a t-shirt with a slogan. And it came down to either I shot JR or I'm your bitch. We ate Persian chicken with almonds, Stiltons, stuffed squash Turkish style, chocolate bread pudding, and I won't let you read this till you can become jealous. Eric apologized for eating slowly and ate slowly. Jimmy and Anna live in the middle of nowhere with the poor, and the poor leave them alone. The Bosporus night view stretches to the black hole that is the Black Sea, and you can see the plain at Büyükdere where crusaders gathered under a huge plane tree. Cut down, I suppose. We also discussed a t-shirt that said, "Old hippies do it with hallucinations." But Jimmy pointed out it was too damn long. Lost and Foundling Sonnet. I want to see more Jeffness. Dear friend, I know I've tethered my immortal soul to ancient formalities, but it's only months since I moved. Everywhere red delicious are dropping, but charts of our Gawanda still hang from the walls. Some days it's song of blood tomes on a bass drum. Other times, aimless hours soak the day's cloth, hanging from me with the weight of their soft rain. Live among words, and soon you're wearing their burdens. Pledge right now, right hand raised, it wasn't the butler in the library with a crowbar, but the cogent squawking of riddle, solve, and riddle again. I tell you this, it's no miracle how infants pile up on the doorstep. A whole world's out there doing it. I mean, looking for continents. But for me, it's enough just to feed these kids. This is called We. Are wide awake after sex and sweat and a swarm of mosquitoes from the Mevlahani garden perform a sema by sucking our blood. Where is the magnificent spinning dervish and his wheeling felt headstone? Below us, among instruments for sale on Galop Dede, a self-conscious beginner cautiously plucks an oud. And how much more time do I have anyway? Oh, okay. Oh, getting close, I'm sure. I don't want to just blow it, you know.
You've only read for 8 minutes.
Oh, completely? Wow. I really gone to town then. Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's a terrible burden. This poem is called The Far Shorts, the name of the book. By the way, the book is for sale. $15. A bargain, surely. Okay. Okay. This is for my old friend Vic Sage. If we were walking a Norfolk countryside, catching up on the years, considering stag-head oaks and the graves of John Brinsley easily as we entered low-lying mist, I could not tell you how, from that obscure beyond where we are always headed, I came to live in Istanbul. It was as if suddenly, while looking out the window at the Asian shore while snow was falling, I knew the past had created a moment where I saw the cities I had lived in grow together, where a bay, a sound, a strait, and a sea thousands of miles apart joined. This place then spread out before me with thoroughfares and dead ends, spindly lanes that humped their way up hills and down. A boulevard stoplight transfixed me before I drove on into a side alley. The haphazard warren of an old neighborhood surrounded me by a cement block with zigzags scratched in the crackling plaster facade next to an empty lot where girls gathered to play in the grass, next to an abandoned wood building blackened by sun, leaning on the cypress next to it for support. Through the broken windows, I could see ceiling lath hanging down, breaking free of the fresco of faint grapevines in black, trellised on umber stakes, framed at the molding with medallions of black and gray. Small fissures of light entered the room's broken walls, crisp shapes that passed through the house as families moved through hallways, rooms in daily routines, dozens of bodies treading well-mapped paths, greeting changes in the day like a sundial, dining together after sunset on the divan in darkness. Your Gothic was there in their shadowed shapes, the intimate foreboding that lives in all things, present in the fog and the pint we might stop for, alive in our voices, extending as they should, far beyond the reach of our footsteps, into pictures on pages of books we haven't opened and won't. Our name isn't written there on the pictures of someone else, yet we have done what we could to know it, as well as chicken biryani on Clapham High Street. Okay, and I think one more and then I'm cooked. Okay. Yeah, this is called Returning to the States. I lived in Istanbul 18 years. And so then coming back to the States, it's shocking, really, in a lot of ways after all that time overseas. Took me a long time to get used to living here. Shren actually got used to it a little quicker than me, I think. Yeah. Returning to the States. The crackling speaker on the boat outside my window can't distort the slow steps in the curvature of the violin's minor meditation. I'd been moving along the edge of misunderstanding so long. What will I hear when I can hear? I will again know the monotony of English sobriquets and innuendos. Streets will fill with cackling laughter. Then words will appear in cartoon bubbles, entering their mouth in a thin line. I have to hear the terrible things people say to each other every day. Thanks. Wow.
Hello, everybody. So I'm going to read from my various books, and I'm going to start with a couple from Stealing Buddha, which came out a couple years ago. The first one I wrote for my daughter, Hannah, and it's called The Artist. Backyard plastic easel with 3 paint tubs, all in primary hues. Overhead, a nest of newly hatched sparrows, mother circling with nourishment. You, barely out of diapers, on a rainless spring afternoon. I lead you behind the house, toddling as if blindfolded. Spotting the gift, you stare with bewilderment. Sheets of white paper fastened with a plastic clip. Sturdy paint receptacles filled with bright, viscous liquid. So different from the hardness of crayons grasped in quivering fingers, needing sustained pressure to make straight lines. You lean forward, extract brush from paint, peer at the foreign object, and turn your gaze towards me, asking for permission. Go ahead, I say. Open-mouthed, astonished, you apply brush to canvas as birds circle overhead, and our entire backyard fills with color. She's still an artist too. She's a really good artist. She's turning 30. So it's pretty amazing actually that she has like stayed with art. She loves it so much. Okay, let me go ahead and do another one from this book. It's called Creature Feature Number 2. There's actually 4 of them, but I'm going to read number 2. Eating popcorn in front of a black and white television, fingers drenched in melted butter and iodized salt. The bride of Dracula has made her fatal mistake, while Frankenstein's monster only wants acceptance from a crowd intent upon his eradication. Next week, the mummy will lumber across my screen, mindless as a drugged cow. And I can stay up as late as I want, or at least until the test pattern emerges. I watch everything. The late news, the grand finale, a rendition of the Lord's Prayer in sign language. Turning off the television feels like saying goodbye to an old friend that I'm not sure I will ever see again. Or if I do, one of us may have changed into a creature that no one can recognize, because I'm already different. My bathroom mirror shows a face that has lived through multiple bouts of terror, and I haven't even begun. Okay. Let's do a couple more. This is one that I wrote in a surrealist poetry class that I took in Tulsa when I was living there briefly. And it was really good because I got out of my comfort zone and I wrote a type of poetry that I had never written before with like a whole lot of run-on sentences. So we'll see how that translates to talking. It's called Still Life with a Spiral Lollipop. Too heavy a stick grasped in your hand, teeth bared for the camera. Just another hour, then you can have some ice cream because you're such a good girl. You know how to sit still, but you only want flight. Lifting above the face, see, the teeth are in rows, picket fence teeth, eyes like potatoes, dull and brown, eyes that can't see the sun. Don't peer into the pinhole. There's nothing inside. The clock leaps and moans. You hold the lollipop. It swirls like the inside of your head. That is the only way your parents can love you. Your grandmother can say, you're such a good girl. Look how nicely you sit still. Look how neat your clothing is. You're a little lady, and ladies need to know that it's a man's world. So they must stay tidy, not ask too many questions, always have dinner ready. And when you hear your husband's footfall, the opening of the mechanical garage door, then for God's sake, fix him a cocktail and make one for yourself as well. The lollipop droops when you hold it in the air for too long, but you can't put it down because you're a good girl. And good girls do what the grown-ups tell them. The same grown-ups who cry in their beds at night. Your parents won't come when you cry in your bed at night, when you think your bedroom is on fire. And maybe it really is on fire. Maybe it has always been on fire. And maybe everything is on fire. Maybe it has always been on fire, and the whole world is on fire, and you're about to burst into flames. You will burst into flames. If you have to sit here for another minute, but you don't burst into flames, you just smile, As the photographer says, "What a good girl, how nicely you smile, how well you sit still. Stay a little longer and we'll take some more photos for the paper." You want to be in the paper, don't you? Every little girl wants her picture in the paper, and you are so pretty. You'll be the loveliest girl in the Chicago Sun-Times, and everyone will say, "Who is that girl?" And in the $50 coat with the $50 smile and the lollipop that turns like a merry-go-round, and you will forget that your parents don't love you, your daddy moved away, and your stepdad doesn't come when you scream, or he makes you scream again and again. Don't scream now, or no one will like you, and you won't have your photo in the fashion pages. Every girl wants to be in the fashion pages, and you don't want to be a bad girl, do you? Or worse yet, an ugly one. Okay, just one more photo. Smile larger, show some teeth, but not too many teeth. You don't want to look angry, do you? The best thing about being a girl is you can smile and get anything you want. That's from my new book, by the way, Pretty Good Disaster, which is good enough time as any to say that these books are for sale. So hit me up if you're interested. This one is not. This is a literary magazine that I was published in recently. Probably should come with a disclaimer. It's kind of a gross sex poem, but I'm going to read it anyway. It's called Magic Fingers. It's a job I had for like 3 days. Iowa City's massage parlors catered to forsaken gentlemen of all vocations. Truckers, day laborers, shift workers, nervous students who didn't have time for girlfriends. I perched on a couch between two other women and waited for the patrons to make their pick. Some guys liked blondes, others brunettes. Each chose a masseuse as casually as he might select a six-pack. A one-girl back rub with extras cost the same no matter who supplied it. So I started with shoulders, running my fingers along stringy muscles, squeezing flesh like overripe fruit, eventually working my way downwards. The men like to pretend I was an innocent conquest, perhaps sipping beer at an off-campus haunt on an awkward first date. Are you a student? What is your major? What do you do when you're not working? They finally emitted milky streams of pleasure, grunted a couple of times, and wiped themselves off with a hand towel. Afterwards, I joined the other women on the well-worn lobby couch, and we watched Rockford Files reruns until it grew so late that Iowa City's cache of lonely guys had all gone to sleep, solo in a single bed or curled beside their unsuspecting wives, but alone either way. Bummer. Where are they now? It's hard to say. Okay, here's a more cheery one that I wrote for my husband who is no longer with us. I wrote this, when he was still vibrant and alive. And I was thinking of the Sun card in the tarot. It's from Death and Heartbreak, another book of mine. It's called The Sun 19. I remember the sun like I remember your father. No nonsense, unapologetic, just doing his job. 5 billion years with the same company. When it was time to turn on the lights, you didn't argue with him. You didn't beg for the snooze button. You got your ass out of bed and you hustled. It was pointless to debate the man who controlled your hours. Your father had a flashy side, kept a stylish haircut, and a shiny car that he washed every weekend. When he felt benevolent, he was the nicest guy in the world. But if you caught him in a foul mood, he was a tyrant, smoldering long past bedtime. But sometimes, when you sat with him, the temperature was perfect, neither hot nor cold. He surprised you with another slice of pie as he praised your brilliance. You begged for his eternal company and waited patiently for his return. No one else's warmth could ease your bones to sleep as you reclined beside the water. No one else could understand the language of dawn and nightfall. Someday, you'll learn to illuminate the beam and will have no need of your father. The lantern burns without apology in a room of your own design. It may take 1,000 years for you to comprehend, but when you do, your flame will eclipse the sun, and your untrained wings will beat with fierce joy against the sky. How much time do I have left?
I haven't even keeping track. That's kind of up to you.
Okay, it's okay. I'm going to do 2 more, and then I'm done. This is called Ode to a Dying Tree in My Front Yard. The crooked tree bends from weight of moss, yet flowers like an aged man dressed in a fancy suit. Limb remnants seared after the windstorm hang jagged, nubs exposed to the elements. Still, the blooms, their instinctive search for light. Thousands of blossoms open wide, continue their stubborn animation. As long as roots draw water from earth, the tree will display flowers. Each spring, new resolve. The tree slumps a little more each year. Its gray bark is covered with fungus. One day, it will collapse, but not now. Meanwhile, I don't know its name. Okay, I've got one more and it's over here. I think this is still here. Yeah, okay. And then this one is from my book, The Failure of Photography. And I wrote this kind of during COVID when I was living in Bisbee with my husband when he was dying of cancer. There was a lot of uncertainty during that time. So I'm just going to leave you with this. It's called 110 Degrees and No Relief in Sight. My mother was a widow in the desert. I will be next, but I don't know when. I fool myself as I look in the mirror, note my cheek bloom and determined clench. Though I outlast everyone, one day I will lie down in the same gully, surrender to the third shift gatekeepers. All of us crouch together in scrub brush, waiting for my number to appear. The forest no longer wants me, spits its poison into my lungs, comes with a price tag I can't afford. My ancestors wore dark boots with laces, and that was enough. Predators dispatched with clubs and guns. Acres of trees sacrificed for shelter. I am too bloated to fight. too fond of comfort. You were too, until the invaders crept inside your body as you slept. The lesson is, you can never sleep. Your eyes must always be open to spot all the mistakes that others will make at your expense. My desert homework, trust no one. My mother taught me early. All right, thank you. And again, these are all.
Dear Leopoldo, thank you for submitting to the New Yorker. That felt so good. Although we won't be carrying your work in the magazine, we are grateful for the opportunity to read and consider it. I think that's the most political, nice thing that they could have possibly said, you know? We welcome the opportunity sincerely, and they signed it, Kevin Young, poetry editor, and Hannah Alsenman, deputy poetry editor. Anyway, I'm having that framed. This is the poem. It's called Me and Ted. Me and Ted were born one day apart. Ted in Chicago, Evergreen Park to be precise. Me one day later in New York City, Greenwich Village to be precise. Ted went on to kill 3 people and injure 23 with his homemade bombs, and eventually went to prison for 27 years. I spent 3 separate overnights in jail for open bottle of beer in a car, accidentally removing part of a hotel sign, having no bond money to guarantee showing up for a custody hearing. To my knowledge, no one was injured or killed. Ted lived alone. His last place, a remote cabin in Montana, as a recluse honing his survival skills. After 3 marriages and 3 divorces, I'm married again and have lived with my wife for the past 38 years. That was 2 years ago. 10 of them in a 4-generational family. They say Ted had an IQ of 167 and was a mathematical genius. I've been told my IQ is somewhat above average, and I've always liked math and am good with numbers. Ted wrote a 35,000-word essay / manifesto entitled Industrial Society and Its Future, which was published in the New York Times. I write poetry and occasionally read them to my family and at poetry readings. A zither was found in Ted's cabin among his guns and pipe bombs. Perhaps he played it late at night. I used to play 4-handed Beethoven symphonies with my mother on the piano with great gusto and little concern for accuracy. Ted died today in prison. Right-wingers still quote from his manifesto, "I am still alive, although I'm not aware of anyone quoting me." We both were concerned about environmental damage from the industrial complex. We both tried living more simply in tune with nature. We both were warm-blooded animals and frequent air breathers. We both had high hopes. So this is, you can see the onion paper. This was written, I think, 50 years ago. I was on a typewriter, and I have a whole sheath of this, but I decided to just pick one out. And this is like revisiting myself, going through these poems, because it's not recent stuff, or some of it's fairly recent. So, oh yeah, that's right, I forgot. It's such tiny type, I realized I could only read it if I had my glasses on. Running and sliding through late afternoon, 1,000 trees around, the grass high, your bare foot splashing up the mirrored belt of clouds, threatening, moving faster on a flat lake of sky, breathing drops of rain and air, you're clean. Willow trees, their branches hanging with the mist and leaves, a dripping curtain brushed aside, at just above the ridge with grass dew sliding down the slippery bank, a river wild and charging, backup pools swirling round, by broken stalks and water weeds, a swaying bridge for dancing on the wet wood, across and down the slope, you're safe. This is a poem I wrote because I used to be, but I'm not anymore, a gardener, but I'm blessed by living with one. And for those of you who were at Poetry Plaza this summer, which we had finally in the garden, you'll know why I'm so enamored. It's called Bless Your Love. Bless your love of solitude in garden, joyous reveries, your dirt-stained hands, in communion, the daffodils bowed as prayer, the hum of the dragonfly concerto drowning the howling horns of hurry up. Bless your love of quiet words, bound fast on curved sheets, endless worlds within pages, your well-scrubbed hands softly turning, submersed in attention to the stillness required to decipher the symbols between the empty white spaces. Bless your love of restless curiosity, no recipe too tame for whimsy, spices, herbs, and ginger root trickling through your fingers, falling in fragrant concoctions served in wooden bowls to earnest supplicants of your monastic order. Bless your love of this supplicant, standing here before you, for whom too much of anything is cause for noisy celebration, leaving us no choice but to balance on quivering tightrope strung high above the clamor. There is no safety net below. Save your dirt and books and novel concoctions where you return again and again to your life of curiously quiet solitude. I wrote this one after visiting a friend of mine who's no longer here. We were friends, we were colleagues, we kind of, were in the trenches together, and this is when, over a period of time, because of his diagnosis of Alzheimer's, was in here in Seattle on a memory ward, locked. Although there is no lock, there's just a picture with a kind of code that anybody who still could figure things out can read and push the elevator buttons. But nobody on that floor could do that anymore. It's called Remembering. Do you remember me saying that remembering is highly overrated? Although useful for navigating the world of matter and things, what we had for breakfast the last time I said, I love you? Memory is not that big a deal on the memory ward. Forgetting is everywhere. It's like the air we breathe. What really matters is to be glad to be here now with you. It doesn't matter how many times we tell each other, it never gets old. When I entered your room, you were laying on your back on the bare mattress, diagonally, fully clothed, one shoe on, one shoe off, trying to button that last hard-to-reach lowest button on your shirt. I have stopped trying to button that last button. It doesn't seem to matter that much anymore. I read that to him, along with other poems, and we couldn't remember a lot of things, but the things that he had not forgotten was us expressing affection for each other and humor, which we did a lot. This one, I have no idea what's it about. It's called Grief 17, probably was a long time ago. And it goes like this. The tribes lit fires on the rim where fireflies formed rings of frost. As time gave way, gave in, as she slipped beneath the surface, my memory of her sank. 1,000 years later, we walked the lake bed looking for turnips among the fossil remains. I asked her for forgiveness. She looked away. As glaciers froze time once again, we were too late. This one's called We Are Not Museums. You are not a museum, with ancient memories lurking in dusty bins jumbled up in piles where a river once flowed freely. The past is not welcomed here. where once barking dogs now sleep through the night, yet you lie awake before dawn. You and I were joined, and now split asunder. I hunt for the map to find what was once a familiar path to the beginning of our journey. I am not a museum of yesterday's accomplishments, trophies filling rows of glass cases, a small bronze plaque break in case of emergencies. Back home, my model skin makes a case for vulnerability. The jury is still out on the final verdict. The judge appears bored with all the back and forth. I escape through a back door where you wait, in the boat, oars in hand, beckoning me, our destination revealed in your smile. I was invited to a wedding to somebody who considers me an uncle, known her since she was just a little one. She now lives in West Seattle, and it's a joy to be with her husband, and she's pregnant, and the baby's coming, and we're looking forward to it. And so this is the wedding that I didn't go to. It was in Maine, and I was having a panic attack about getting on a plane when I was having trouble breathing, and it was still the end of COVID, and masks were still being worn, and I just remember saying, I think I can't do this. It was a big deal, and this is the poem that I wrote and then gave to them, which they, for some reason, seemed to like. It's called The Wedding Prayer. Church bells become silent sentries as we kneel for afternoon prayers. Sunlight filters through the incense. I hear the chaplain sigh. In the forest, on boughs of green, the wedding couple finally sleeps. Our prey has slipped away. Even the braying dogs are tired. Yet calm as water pools, the lovers lie in forest mist. Sanctified by custom and ritual, they are now our future's best hope. I look around the congregants, the colored shawls, the stern black hats. Far away quietly, in alcove dark, I hear the chaplain smile. This May, the end of May, our brother, Charmaine's brother and my brother-in-law, he was my brother, died unexpectedly and tragically. And I wrote this poem, and I didn't go to the memorial service in Michigan, but my wife said, I'd like to read that poem at the memorial service, celebration of life, and she did. And it's called Our Secret Pact. My brother and I had a secret pact, broken when I saw him, crumpled on his kitchen floor like my sister's Raggedy Ann doll. You know, the one with the candy heart sewn inside with the words, I love you. We actually didn't know the exact terms of the pact, but the gist was along the lines, if neither of us dies, then we're both going to live forever, probably. We didn't even know we had a pact. That's how secret it was. An unspoken, no need to say it out loud, that we are immortal. Maybe we should have had it notarized. Maybe if he had known we had a secret pact, he would have made different choices. He wouldn't have wanted to let me down. He would have kept his side of the bargain. I do know his heart had the words, I love you. I'm sure we must have said, I love you to each other many times. I'm sure we felt it many times. I know I feel it now. And this is kind of a lighthearted one about trying to write poetry. And it's called Those Who Know. Those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know, or so says those who speak, attributing the speak to Lao Tzu, who has been mistranslated according to those who speak. But if it were so, then poets everywhere, if they know, would go silent, sit by the river's edge watching the waters flow to the sea. And these last two are, again, about, I suppose, it's not an obsession, it's not morbid, but I do contemplate my own demise And this called, I wrote this quite a while ago. This one's called After I Die. Because you know, in any marriage, there's a lot of compromise. After I die, she will finally get a cat. Maybe a dog or two. Shut up the house, take a long trip to Thailand, sell the television, cancel the morning paper, give away computers and hand tools, thoroughly clean my office, balance the checkbook by hand, buy only practical cars, replace the fence only after it collapses, stop hiding chocolates, eat Sunday breakfast at home, build fires on rainy nights, play our favorite symphonies, read poems out loud, visit the places of my ashes, walk the long, wet beach, remember to quote me and pray, and one more thing, never stop loving me more than I could imagine, as never before, forever, for as long as she lives. And this last one I wrote after or around my 80th birthday, which the family, for a change, instead of me organizing it, because I'm kind of a community organizer, and so I've always organized my own birthdays, and they're quite events, big events. They took it upon themselves, the three daughters, and it's called On My 80th Birthday. On a cold, wet beach on the Pacific, alone and afraid of the dark, he listened to the silence of his death. His family began to gather one by one, built a small fire that grew so large it could be seen as far away as Coos Bay. They formed a circle around him, swaying slowly to and fro, humming a wordless chorus. As they danced wildly, shouting into the gray wind along the surf, he joined their festive mood, howling with praise and gratitude, dancing until he fell exhausted, cradled in their embrace. They dressed him in rainbow garments, gave him hot tea to drink, kissed his forehead one by one. Later, sipping from bowls of hot soup, his flesh as warm as his heart, their eyes glimmered in the dark, the silence retreated into the night. Protected by their loving presence, he listened to the waves along the shore. And that's it.
Students, and felt like an outsider, an unwelcomed guest, an untrusted individual standing among the loyal members of the community. Anyone at any time now would stand close to my face, pointing a finger, you did this, you support this, you hate us. Why do you hate us? What have these innocent people done to you? Take your religion and your culture and go home. You don't belong here. Thankfully, they looked down at their feet as the head custodian lowered the flag halfway. We stood shoulder to shoulder in silence, no weeping, no sniffling, no shuffling, no clearing of throats, complete silence. My mind took me to a place in the past where I was Shia minority, standing erect in respect among Sunni majority, reciting in unison the Kuwaiti national anthem in the school courtyard at 7 a.m. I forgot to tell you, I'm original from Kuwait, okay, so that now makes sense. وطن الكويت سلمت للمجد وعلى جبينها طالع السعد. That afternoon, Mr. White entered my classroom for the first time ever. He looked frantic and agitated, A few strands of his long blonde mixed with gray hair had found a way to free themselves from the tight grip of the black hairband. He walked quickly toward me in a manner that made me step back from behind my desk. "What do you know about these people who bombed the Twin Towers?" he asked with his index finger wagging in my face. Mr. White looked too tall than I remembered. I noticed myself staring at his belly and not his face. My thoughts were cartwheeling and couldn't grasp the meaning behind his question. Suddenly, I became oblivious to his nonverbal cues and numb to his angry demeanor. He was confrontational, accusatory, and loud. But in return, I grew as calm as a cucumber. His furor didn't faze me. I stood there and recommended some books I'd read recently about Middle East. "You should read Price of Honor or Holy War or Saddam Hussein's Bomb Makers." He shook his head violently as to erase the absurdity of my response and continued to interrogate me as if I had something to do with this horrific crime. "Who did this?" His voice grew louder and lost patience with me, and drops of sweat and spit spattered and landed on my desk. Of course, in the heat of the moment, I thought he wanted to make sense out of this whole ordeal. Never in a million years would I have thought that a teacher would barge into my classroom full of anger and blame to accuse me personally of a revolting attack that took place hundreds of miles away. I think Hamas did this. They terrorized Kuwait and Saudi Arabia for many years in the 80s. I lived through that, from car bombing, hijacking a plane, and to trying to assassinate the emir. I answered him as if we were sitting in a dark room with only one light bulb suspended from the ceiling and swayed like a pendulum, hypnotizing me and making me confess unwillingly. Mr. White turned paler than his natural fair tone. His lips disappeared from squeezing them together, trying very hard to control his rage. He kept clenching his jaws and balling up his fists as if he was ready to take revenge for those who were innocently murdered yesterday. He was more agitated than before he entered my room, with beads of sweat shimmering on his forehead, and the few escapee strands of hair now were sticking to his temples. He stared at the back wall of my classroom with so much irritation, I thought he might cause it to collapse. He walked out of the room in such vehemence that one could almost see the black smoke, smell the burn, and see the skid marks he left behind. Woo-hoo. Okay, done.
Gather your hair into a soft handkerchief, shape it into a nest. Take it to the wild earth on a full moon and plant it. Watch to see what grows, what strange life may spring from dead cell strands. There is nothing more valuable than recreation of life. Do this ritual each month. Ask the universe forgiveness till there is no hair in your head, no garden in your yard. And this is recently, I went to Edinburgh for the Fringe Festival. So this was a brand new poem that I wrote about that experience. That was in August. It's falling for Edinburgh during the Fringe Festival. Another cobbled day to walk Edinburgh's hills alongside dirty walls, sheltered and graveside, ancient old city textured ambience. An insistence on non-linearity, what we call an alley, you name a close. Each street a mass horde against traffic. We implode on each other, our wealth of being alive. Splurges of green in church courtyards, this monolithic city, one of Earth's centers. On the Royal Mile, we pass blades tossed high by jugglers earning silver pounds. Grand architecture, monuments to poets. Us newcomers with our GPS on our phones, on our iPads, finding routes along non-linear pathways built around a castle. We navigate, stop to take pictures, locals race around us, used to such grandeur. The cost to be here raised in August, all your festivals clustered to alert the world, this is the time to visit, to eat our meat pies, to sample our blood pudding and haggis, our sticky toffee pudding, which in truth is a cake. We drop our silver pounds into open hands. We give, you give. All of us prosper. This the way of the world. This beholden city has seen years of hardship, seen the rise of labor rights, the will of the powerless to overcome their station, welcoming all nations, hardy, strong, rugged, a people rugged to weather, cold and rainy year-round. Walking these long-winded streets, we hold on to craggy walls, a visitor full on your butter cookies. We have fallen in love with your city. Thank you.
I'm going to read, I have, I self-published Kringonian Pizzazz and Kringflower, and I turned them into songs. Most of my poems I turned into songs. I'm really inspired by, I got my button, Tom Petty, who widens my jetty, I like to say, just really inspires me in multiple ways. And I'm a little dyslexic. That's why I'm mostly inspired by music, because I listen to a lot of music more than I read, honestly, because I'm dyslexic. So, and I like audiobooks. Okay. This is about current times, the challenge of current times. Outsmart the gaslighters. Enticed out to play, fear of feeling poked and prodded. Cultivate the strength of coyote, hummingbird, raccoon, spider. Not fitting into the slot. Nerves forcing the stoic strong. Nerves forcing the stoic strong. Nordic me, into this loud sonic boom room, feeling the gloom doom, feeling the gloom doom. Ruined petal, butterfly wings. Outsmart the gaslighters, grabbing clouds, seeding lands. See an enemy set free. See an enemy set free. Seeding the bloom beyond the wound. Seeding the bloom. The right to be wrong, the wrong to rewrite reality. Strong yet fragile, strong yet fragile. In tangential angles, inertia disturbs to slanted words. Need those extroverts with those introverts. Some think absurd that I am herded into the pasture. Off to the inner bride and groom, fully married to the self-actualized heat of me. Outsmart the gaslighters. Grabbing clouds, seeding lands. See an enemy set free. See an enemy set free. Seeding the bloom beyond the wound. Outsmart the gaslighters. Seeding the bloom beyond the wound. Seeding the bloom beyond the wound. Seeding the wound beyond the bloom. Okay. And just a couple short ones. Free of traps. I just have random phrases pop into my head and I just write them down. Free of traps. Free from traps. Stacked satchels, ruptured memories. Stay with me through thick and thin, strengthening skin. Transparent layers off the conveyor belt. Wool-felted velvet tongue washes clean into dreamscape analysis. Triangle siren sleeks by, inviting fireflies, dwindling kindling. Kindness lights the flame flicker chandelier. Pirates and tigers home for dinner. Shimmer glimmer, hit the trigger. nutshell, Temple Grandin stand-in. I've been really inspired by Temple Grandin. I'm a little bit on the autism spectrum, and she's got a PhD, and she's this amazing person, and I'm really happy that Temple Grandin is here. Okay. I'm inspired by her. Okay. Ripple effect. Ruby slippers come hither, inject the ripple effect. Crippled by neglect, expanded the death of cynic. Ripple, cripple, dimple, she shall dwell, swell. Inject, reject, project, protect. Natural light awaken, harmonize cells that dwell. Ripple effect radiating out circular, despite any spirals of denial. Empathy for the predator, natural rhythm hijacked, natural human, free range human. Come back, come back, come back. Ripple effect constant. Empathy for the predator, sympathy for the angel. Compassion landed, no longer stranded. Crippled from neglect, to heck with that. Out and about patterns, flowing, knowing, enticing. Serendipity, tripping out of loving nature's pace. Moon-shone face. Authentic eruption of my soul, molten orange liquid glow. Anger takes its toll, blowing status quo. Blue, green, purple, turquoise, opalescent moon dance, give it a chance. In this stance, ripple effect constant, ripple effect constant, ripple effect constant.
All right, I'm going to do 2 poems this evening. I had not planned to do this first one, but I was, let's say, inspired. This is for you, Leopoldo. This first poem is called Unsolicited Material, and I'm a little blind, so I'm going to blow this up a little bit. Okay, ready? Sorry. Unsolicited Material, Part 1. May I speak to Mike Hickey, please? This is he. Hi, this is Connie from Good Samaritan Hospital. You were in last week for a physical examination, correct? That's right. Dr. Morris asked you to send a stool sample. Have you had a chance to do that yet, sir? Yet, sir? Yes, I did. Are you sure? Believe me, Connie, I would remember dropping a turd in the toilet and fishing it out with a plastic bag. I mailed it in a large manila envelope. Part 2. You're a little ahead of me. Later that night, under the coffee table, I find a large manila envelope addressed to Good Samaritan Hospital, containing a self-addressed envelope, a short biography, 5 perfectly typed, laser-printed poems on white paper, thick as a starched collar, with the following cover letter. Attention, poetry editor, The New Yorker. I have enclosed the following for your consideration. I was mortified, naturally, when I figured it all out and didn't bother to send the New Yorker any further samples of my unsolicited material. 6 months later, I returned home from work one day and find a large manila envelope wedged in the mailbox, and sure enough, the magazine has returned my bag of fossilized feces with a short, curt form letter. We regret we are unable to use the enclosed material. Thank you for giving us a chance to consider it. The editors. All right. One more. I do poetry and I do comedy, so I call this stand-up comedy, stand-up poetry. This is from my newest book, my 7th book. I'm just trying to catch up with Leah. This poem is called Her Hair. My wife slinks in the house, and with hands on hips, a vein-sized crack in her timber, asked, well, what do you think? Matrimonied for 11 years, I have learned the finer points of this precarious intersection the hard way, to look for signs of weakness in her eyes like a reluctant peacock, uncertain whether or not to spread the full deck of his plumage. She is on the cliff face of tears. This much is obvious. What has this hairstylist done to her? Perhaps she has been crying. My wife takes her hair very seriously. I have years of trial and error scars to prove this. And that she has been weeping is not altogether unfathomable, as her hair resembles an orgy at a chinchilla ranch. Sit down, honey, I say with the sincerity of someone about to fleece you at the poker table, and I circle around her buzzard like 360 loops of animal husbandry. Phenomenal, I whisper, replete with reptile smile. It accentuates your cheekbones. It's so radical, it's so chic. You have the perfect facial features to pull this off, baby. And I sell it like P.T. Barnum coaxing a one-armed lion tamer back into the ring. Then, careful not to overdo it, lest I become the subject of her dismay, lest I somehow become the scapegoat of this follicle assault. For reasons that will be mostly incomprehensible, I go back to watching the basketball game on TV, having rediscovered the tenuous magic in my wife's hair and all the other secrets hidden up there. Thank you.
Planned out. So people ask me, they say, did you? Because I work hard on these poems. I rewrite them like 8 times. And they come and they say, did you? Did you what? Did you bring it? Did you bring it? Yeah, I brought it. I got some poems too. Yeah, but did you bring it? I brought it. Brought a little klezmer with me too. All right, that's enough of that. I don't know. So I was looking through stuff, old pictures and stuff, and I came across a picture that I had to write about. In this, like from 1968, and I was in the Army. And it's called Black and White Faces. And I had just come out of USC, the University of Spoiled Children. And so I was confronted with some really streetwise people that I'd never met before, and it was great education. Black and white faces. When I look at the black and white 8x10 glossy of my 1968 U.S. Army Basic Training Battalion, I remember the names, the faces, the voices of the black and brown men. Each wore their persona like a garment, each sporting a voice I believe I can still recall. But the whites, sadly, not so much, except for the poor ginger who went psycho one night and had to be confined in the weapons room, banging his hands on the cyclone fencing of the rifle cage, the M14s locked tight, holding silent vigil all night over his madness. His crazed voice I still hear. But the others in my memory, silent, looking mostly in the photo like deer in the headlights, cannon fodder. Oh, there was Willie Enriquez from East LA who showed me about Street Tough. But he was not in the picture. He and I ran free on profile together. Dude, indeed, that was a whole nother story. Yes, indeed. But the blacks in the photo, like Humphreys, fullback the year before at LA's Washington High, 6'2", 240 pounds of muscle, who, lounging on the grass, looked up at me one afternoon when the sergeant had tasked me, the college grad, to gather up the troopers. Humphreys just ever so slowly turned his head and said, You gonna make me? Well, no, can you just, they told me. And wiry little Evans, drafted straight from the streets of Philly, who abruptly stood up in the mess hall one lunchtime and carried his uneaten tray of slop they had fed us that day to the garbage. This was not allowed. So the sergeant made him do push-ups into the tray to eat the food. There he was, in the presence of the resident authority of the U.S. Army, Sergeant somebody, who said, Evans, you eat that food or you'll be here all afternoon. Evans, staring down at the slop on the stainless steel tray, just as resolutely declared, I ain't going to eat it. And there you had it, $2 in a standoff. One with institutional power and a uniform, the other was something else, something that wore no uniform. Sergeant, you eat that food, trooper. Evans, in a voice which echoed across the pin-drop silent mess hall, barked out, I wouldn't feed this shit to my dog. What did you say? I said, I wouldn't feed this shit to my dog. And the entire mess hall erupted in snickers and guffaws. And the sergeant went all DEFCON 2, yelling and threatening, whirling around to the room and roared, you meatheads, button it up or you'll be down there with him. But the pike had turned. Even at the sergeant's table were in stitches, and they waved their man off. Evans spent the rest of the week on KP, but his authority was intact. And Sanders, standing tall, imperious, proud from Chicago, as I recall, with a voice like Samuel L. Jackson, so deep, so sonorous, they let him call cadence when we marched in a block. All gone now. Who knows where? 57 years on, and still speaking from the glossy black and white 8x10. Mostly they saying, do not fuck with me.
All right. So that was fun. I hurt myself. And on January 20th, I read in the AARP magazine, How Not to Fall. And as soon as I finished that article, I have a hardwood floor, I went down. And I woke up the next morning in the hospital, and I'd done something stupid with my femur. So I spent a lot of time alone. And recently, I discovered a spider on the outside of the window. I have double pane windows. So she's female because I watched her build a web and getting ready. She built a nest. I could see the eggs, I think I can see the eggs shining through her body at sunset. She matched the sunset, all orange with little hairs poking between her legs. She's outside on the 12th floor. I check her every day. And last Wednesday, she was gone. No web, no spider, nothing. And I did a lot of research on spiders. And I found out the black widow aren't the only ones that eat the guy who mates them. Most spiders eat the male. So some guy had come up 12 stories to mate with her, and I saw the legs descending down the window. And no bird had gotten her, but somebody had gotten her. And I assumed that there was no bird, so I would watch for the eggs to hatch. So 3 days ago, I looked out the window, and she was there, all of the spider. And I went, what happened? Is there another spider? What happened? I need to watch at night because I can't figure out what happened. But she built a web. The first web was destroyed. The second web was even finer.
So she was sitting on the web, and all of her, she had eaten the spider. She had eaten the guy. I know that. And dumb gentleman had come up 12 stories to meet. She ate him, and the legs I saw descending were his legs. So that was all that was left of him. Now I'm watching the egg sac, but there's another problem. I got an email from the owner of the apartment building, and they are washing the windows. That's the other thing. So I tried to tell her, try to talk to a spider through a double web. And she was there this afternoon. So now my spider story will have a beginning, a middle, a little sex, and some end. But I don't have the end yet. But somebody will watch the spiders come out of the web. And next week I'll maybe have more to share with you. That's it. All right.
So Leopoldo's and his wife's garden, it's just poetry. And I know the secret, how it grows, because it's absolutely marvelous. They read poems when there is nobody around. And if that doesn't work all the time, then they invite poems like us. And we read a lot of other things, and everything blooms. What a place. What a place. There's nothing else like this anywhere in the world. Leah, I wasn't going to read this poem, but it's a segue to, in a way, to the poem you read about that parlor.
About what?
About that 3-day stint that you had in that massage parlor. So I'm going to read. So I'm going to read the poem. And I know I've read it before, but so forgive me, those who heard it. Miss Cello, she worked in a tiny bordello where she wouldn't wear a halo, where she'd play for a nickel and dime, and when she played, the world was divine. She was no saint by any measure. She had a chest, a real treasure. Her only leg a sharp stiletto, gifted to her by a brunetto. Miss Cello's aficionado, un avocado from Colorado, a bordello desperado with expensive taste and bravado. On cue, Miss Cello would take the stage, set her foot and evoke the rage of her many aficionados, of her shapely shaped and bravados, of her foolhardy forays off stage, considering her advanced age, despite her stellar preservation and never-ending restoration. Miss Cello never ceased to ignite the fires that burned through the night, for her talents on and off stage were a priceless balm and osage. And I'm going to read another poem that I already have because of Nehaya. And she told me that she loved this poem, and I think it's worth reading it. It comes from my immigrant song poem. And this one has a motto: to have another language is to possess another soul. Charlemagne. And this poem is coming up. Okay. America, I arrived to inhabit the realm of your language. I came to worry your words. Aria Aber. Look out the window, said ESL teacher. It is raining. What is raining? Asked one of the students. It is raining. answered the teacher. How can it be raining? Asked another student. How can I see the rain? I can see the rain, but not it. What is it? Asked someone else. It is rain, so it is raining, explained the teacher. In winter, when it's cold, it is snowing. The teacher was trying his best. How come it can be snowing and raining? What happens to it when it doesn't rain or snow? The class was raining questions. These are idioms, the teacher said. You just have to learn them by heart, and collapsed in his chair. But we knew better. He was pulling our leg. TOEFL test has no passing grade. It's a 6-hour marathon with one restroom break. Start when told, turn the page when told, begin sections when told, finish sections when told, answer one question, move on to the next. Pace yourself. Don't dwell on one question. Don't leave boxes unmarked. Fill in the blanks. Read questions first, then read the story. After a while, you lose track of time. You wish you'd taken a headache pill. Your number 2 pencil is getting nervous. It shakes more with each question. There's not enough time to finish a section. Fill in the blanks, turn the page, put away your pencil, close your workbook, your worksheet. Wait for the attendant to collect your work. Now you may leave and race to the bathroom.
How does this work? Well, thank you, Phil. And thank you, everyone, for welcoming me. I just graduated at Western up in Bellingham, and I moved down to Seattle, and I was like, I got to find the poets. So here you are. Thanks for being here. So I wanted to read a poem from a collection that I wrote last year, and the collection is called Field Notes and Festerings of a Somebody Who Would Like to Still Create in a Time of Collapse. Yeah. Short and easy title. The collection of poems was written after the assisted suicide of my really dear friend, and the Confederate flag that I found in his room afterwards. It's also about what I did with it. It's about the rise of fascism in America and its prevailing history. And it's about my love of old-time music and my process of learning how to play the rhythm bones. So I'm going to read the poem about where I found the bones. August 27th. The breeze knows more than I do. Do you know who Charlie Patton is? Oh dear, there's so much to learn. Charlie Patton led me to the body where I gathered the bones. The sound of steel strings and stolen labor, Patton's gravelly voice. I have an excerpt from his song, You're Gonna Need Somebody When You Die, 1929. The tune echoed in my mind as I walked in the desert. The tune echoes because, like the bones, it too was found in a field. A different field, the Dockery Plantation. I was in Green River, Wyoming when I picked the bones, or the bones picked me. The latter is unlikely, except that history haunts who it wants, in its own intelligent fashion. In grief, in memory, in consequence, and in spite of. Patton wrote the Green River Blues, but of a different river and a different blues. Yet, Charlie Patton led me to the bones. 4 ribs and 3 vertebrae, I left behind an empty sun-kissed Tito's bottle and a clump of hair. Don't worry, it was just an animal I found. Like you and me, likely died of natural causes long ago. That's how it goes, right? Someone comes in and says, "Don't worry, it was insignificant. We're here now. Don't worry about it. It's a desert scattered with death and decay. I mean, don't worry about it. They deserved it. I mean, it was natural causes. I mean, it was our right to self-defense. I mean, they were violent before we got there. I mean, don't worry about it." What I mean is, it was life and then it was not. Life made a sound and then was made silent, except for wanderers who would hear it. That is the state in which the encounter took place. Every bone speaks a different story, and I was just there to listen. Yeah, that's all I planned on sharing. Thank you.
So thank you for coming out tonight and spending these 2 hours together. I don't think we changed the world, but we kept it from getting a little worse. Yeah, okay? Thank you.